Welcome to part 4 of our special report. Time to answer more important questions such as, who is my borrower? Needless to say, if you're going to loan money, you need someone to loan it to. And if you're going to make a mortgage loan, your borrower must have a piece of real estate to secure the loan against. There are many types of borrowers in the market for mortgages, from home buyers to developers to speculators. But there's a particular type of borrower that is ideal for your private mortgage investments. That borrower is an experienced real estate investor. A real estate investor, as opposed to a landlord, a developer, or a speculator, is someone who buys existing properties at low prices, makes any needed repairs or upgrades, and then sells the properties in a 6-month to 5-year time frame. Real estate investors are your best possible borrowers for a number of reasons. Real estate investors need mortgages that are short to medium term. Unlike landlords and homeowners, who typically want loans with a 20 to 30-year term, real estate investors rarely look for mortgages that last more than 5 years. In fact, they most often need loans of 3.5 years or less, which means that your money is not tied up for decades at a time the way an institutional lender's is. Real estate investors often buy 10, 20, 30 or more properties per year. This makes keeping your money invested easy, as there's always another deal on the horizon. And isn't ease one of those things that makes a good investment? Let's say that your goal is to make 5 good secured mortgage loans this year. Isn't it easier to make those loans to 1 or 2 borrowers than to dig up 5? Real estate investors only need loans of 80% or less of a property's value. Remember, the investor makes his money by purchasing a property at well below market price and reselling it after repairs for a profit. This means that he won't be looking to borrow 95% of what a property is worth, like a homeowner, or more than its current value, like a developer who has only a piece of raw land and the plan to build a house on it. In fact, because of their profit motive, most real estate investors won't even consider buying a deal for more than 70% of its as-is value. This results in an extremely secure loan for you. To a real estate investor, the availability of money is far more important than the cost of that money. To put it another way, real estate investors are perfectly willing to pay a percentage point or 2 more than the standard mortgage rate in return for the ability to close quickly on a good deal. A bank, with all of its red tape, paperwork, and slow internal machinations, cannot write a mortgage in less than 45 days, no matter what. So if the investor's great deal is dependent on a quick closing, maybe the property is about to be sold at a foreclosure auction, or the seller is in a big hurry to sell before the end of the year for tax reasons, or the investor is in a big hurry to buy before the end of the year for tax reasons. The investor does not mind paying 7 to 8% for a private mortgage, even if the bank is offering a loan at 5 or 6%. Again, it's always worth an extra few points to a real estate investor to get a good deal purchased if the other option is to lose it and all the profit that goes with it. For these reasons and many others, your best borrower is a professional real estate investor. When you find one who is experienced, active, and willing to go the extra mile to make your loan as safe as possible, you will have struck a gold mine. Our next question is, how big is the demand for private mortgages? If you're not familiar with the real estate investing world, you might wonder just how easy it's going to be to find borrowers like those I just described. After all, keeping your money invested in these private mortgages is one of the keys to keeping this strategy profitable. Your capital does you no good when it's invested in a bullish stock market or sitting in the bank earning interest rates below the rate of inflation. Well, here's the good news. According to the National Real Estate Investors Association, about 3.5% of Americans own at least one investment property. This means that in a metropolitan area of 1 million, there are approximately 35,000 investors. even if you assume that just 10% of these real estate entrepreneurs meet the qualifications we discussed: active, experienced buyers and sellers of property. That's 3,500 potential borrowers. And remember, each of these borrowers can buy 10, 20, or more properties each year. So you're talking about upwards of 30,000 potential private mortgages per annum. In other words, the potential national demand for private mortgages is in the billions of dollars each year. It's so big that some private mortgage lenders have created entire full-time million-dollar businesses doing nothing but lending private money. And they still haven't made a dent in the demand. The possibilities are endless, and if you have forged an alliance with a quality real estate investor, you can look forward to many years of very lucrative investing. Our next question is, so why don't these borrowers, real estate investors, just use a bank like everyone else? The short answer is, they sometimes do. But borrowing from traditional lenders presents a number of problems to real estate investors. Problems that you can easily overcome simply because you have more control than the bank does over how, when, why, and to whom you loan your money. For instance, banks are too slow. The typical real estate investor spends an enormous amount of his time looking for properties that he can buy at 70% or less of market value. Obviously, the sellers of these properties have to be facing enormous outside pressure to be willing to sell at these prices. And the trade-off to the investor for the bargain price is usually that the deal must be closed in a matter of days or weeks. A seller who needs to liquidate a property quickly to settle an estate or finalize a divorce, or who is facing a foreclosure action, can't wait a month or two to get his money. And that means that the investor needs to find cash, and quickly, to lock in the bargain price he's already negotiated. But even with a pre-approval, a typical bank takes a minimum of 30 to 45 days to complete a mortgage loan. Not because it actually takes that long, but because the traditional lender has no interest in moving a particular loan through the system faster. And remember, institutional lenders are dealing with dozens of new mortgages at a time. And because there are institutionalized steps that must be followed in a particular order. In most banks, the guy at the local branch who starts the loan process is one of many people who handle it. First it goes to the underwriter, then the processor, then to the board for approval. You get the picture. Solution. As a private lender, you offer the investor something that's far more important than the cheapest interest rate: speed. When an investor needs to buy a deal in just a week or two because of some need the seller has, how can he go to a bank for money? And waiting for the loan to grind through the lender's system, he'll lose the deal. You, on the other hand, can close lightning fast. You are the underwriter, the processor, and the board of directors. You probably aren't trying to make 50 loans this week. You can make decisions quickly, act quickly, and write a check quickly. You are the solution to the real estate investor's need for speed. This concludes Part 4 of our special report. Part 5 addresses more important questions. Don't miss it. You need this information.